The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors: Woodland Stud, New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred, Brecken Farms, Stonewall Stud, IRT, it's your horse and our passion, Australasian Wide Garrard's Horse and Hound, Ricciero Racing Stables, Lincoln Farms, the clubs Alexandra Park, Cambridge Raceway, Ashburton Trotting Club, Addington Raceway and Harness Racing New Zealand. Box seat time again. Yes, a big thank you to our stable of sponsors. Plenty to get through today, including a look at the career of Sunday Sun, who joined that very elite Millionaires Club. We've got some review and preview of Alexandra Park. Very big meeting there on Friday night, including the Derby and the Oaks and the Young Guns finals to boot. There's a good mile race for trotters, the return of Oscar Bonavina. We'll talk about that, now trained by Regan Todd. And at the back end, we'll try and find you a winner, something we couldn't do last week, Michael and I, with Ricciero Racing. But Michael Guerin, busy old time in the game at the moment, and yeah, chance for us to reflect on one of the best trotters we've seen in a wee while.
Yep, what a magnificent horse he's been, Gregory, and who would have thought when he was a 3-year-old and had a bad case of the gallops, and back then we thought obviously the Majestic Sun stock were horses who were probably natural 2 and 3-year-olds. We didn't see them as these outstanding open class horses like he and Majestic Man have gone on to be. Who would have thought we would have this conversation about Sunday Sun? So great to see him do it in style, Gregory, last Friday night. That's how you want to become a millionaire. Maybe the most fascinating part of the whole thing, Greg, he could become a 1.5 time millionaire by the end of this year, because of course this season rolls on, and while there's 2 or 3 big guns who can beat him on occasions, Greg, when he's on the speed or in front, they've really got no chance.
Exactly. So let's go back to the celebration that it was at Addington Raceway last Friday night, doing what he does best. Here he is in front, rolling beautifully in the Woodland Stud free-for-all for regular pilot John Dunn. He gets the business done, goes past the $1 million, and post-race I got a chance to reflect on that and what a wonderful horse this has been for not only Robert and Jenna Dunn these days, but also driver John Dunn.
He trots into the $1 Million Club, a place only the elite shall go. Sunday Sun wins it by 3.
Hanging out with a millionaire.
Yeah, but he's been a great horse, Greg. So it was good to get on a winning note too, which is makes it even a bit more special.
We talked earlier in the week about him drawing wide and being able to step that little bit quicker when he does draw out there, and it played out perfectly for him.
Yeah, it did. Like you say, he's always sort of stepped quite quick out wide, and he sort of just rolls across to the front, and it was quite good. Like he didn't go set the track on fire. So it was just a nice run, especially with the hard runs they're going to have when we all meet on level playing fields in the next few races to come.
Johnny, you've driven some special horses, but he's right up there now, isn't he?
Yeah, he'd be the number one for sure. Like what big races he's won, and the way he's sort of done it, he's definitely got to be number one.
He's still in the infancy of his career, really. He might be halfway through it now, so, gee, there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, that's the scary part. There is actually. So hopefully he can stay sound and fit and healthy. And like you say, he's not a tired horse. He's not that old as far as trotters go. So we're looking forward to hopefully get another couple of years out of him. Be great.
He seems to be a dude. What's he like around the stables? Is he a cool horse to work with?
When I get to touch him around the stables, it's normally it's pretty hard to get in front of Craig there. But no, he's good. He knows he's pretty good. He's got his quirks about him, and he's sort of little tricks and things. But no, he's a lovely horse. Now, as a 2-year-old, he wasn't. He used to, as soon as you took an eye off him, he put the boot in. So everything's ironed out that way, and no, a lovely horse to work with.
A couple more starts here in the Lamb and Hayward, and then in the Fred Shaw. A bit of redemption coming up there, but then we'll get him to Auckland and he gets a shot at the Group 1s up there again.
Yeah, like you say, it was actually quite good this race, 2 weeks out from the nice handicap. It's going to be hard the next race. I'll give spotting them 20 metres. Never going to be easy, especially they run time up front. So, and then we go to the Mobile a week later. Fred Shaw, that's the one on the to-do list. That's the one he hasn't got. So we're trying extra hard to get that one this year. And like you say, there are some not going to be easy races up in Auckland. There's a bit of everything, a bit of sprint races over from the gate, and then to cap it off in the Road Cup over the 2 mile stand. So no, looking forward to things ahead.
Johnny, he's joined that really elite bunch in the Millionaires Club. He thoroughly deserves it. To you, Craig, your dad, Jenna, everyone involved with this horse. Congratulations.
Thanks for that, Greg. And yeah, it's a big thrill. And even Colin and Nancy here, what they've put in is his passion, this racing. So extra special for him.
Yeah, an 8-time Group 1 winner, 28 wins in all, Michael. We'll talk about the Millionaires Club very shortly, but gee, he was good once again. Look, he only went 3:20 and change, and he's gone way quicker than that, 3:15 a couple of times last year. So that just shows you that it really was a walk in the park for him. But him in front rolling like that is an absolute pleasure to watch.
Has been almost unbeatable in front for the last 3 years, and originally he didn't have the manners to get to the front in races, but he does now. That race changed complexion enormously when Muscle Mountain galloped. Once he galloped, he was out of play, but he was a chance to do that fresh from barrier 2. It's not the first time we've seen that. And that's also another reason why Sunday Sun's such a great horse. As he's got older, his manners have been, on the whole, pretty good. He has about 2 races this season, Greg, where things will go wrong or he won't produce, and he has the Achilles heel. He has the same Achilles heel, funny enough. When you think about horses, they look completely different. And I'm not saying he's as good as this horse, but very similar to Lazarus. Lazarus over 2 miles, unbeatable. Lazarus, when he's in front, unbeatable. Lazarus off the gate, lacking a little bit of high gate speed, would sometimes find himself vulnerable to a horse who got in front of him. And that was when Lazarus was able to be beaten. And that's similar for Sunday Sun. When Muscle Mountain can get in front of him and Bolt for Brilliance can get in front of him, then he is vulnerable. But when it comes to all-out stamina, again, like a Lazarus-type horse, then he's too good. And that makes you wonder, if he was trained for a different type of racing, if he spent a year at Menangle, and there's no point because the money's not big enough, but that could also be America. If he spent a year there, Greg, like Lazarus, could he adapt to a different type of thing? Could he be that horse, because he's so fast, could actually fly the gate? So again, I'm not saying he's Lazarus, because Lazarus was a better class of horse and a world-class horse, but Sunday Sun is the closest version we've seen of that same thing, Greg, I think, wrapped in Trotter's body.
Yeah, absolutely it was. I thought his stablemate, Mataderos, was very good. More about Sunday Sun in a moment. And then you got to the likes of Five Wise Men, who actually, off the herb, the technical system for sectionals at Addington Raceway, was absolutely excellent in 5th position. Midnight Dash, normal good effort from it as well. But he was just simply too good. All of those earnings, Michael, of course, have been here in New Zealand. His biggest win, his most dramatic win, of course, came last November. Let's just remind you of what he did to the field in the Renwick Farms Dominion, 356.6. That's Mataderos again in 2nd position. And the domination of this race and the peak of his powers was certainly on show day at Addington for everyone to see.
Well, I mentioned before that he's the trotting version of Lazarus. Take Mataderos out of that, and what does that look like? It looks exactly like Lazarus's first New Zealand Cup win, because 10 lengths further back, 10 lengths was Bolt for Brilliance behind them. So Mataderos has made it into the photo, but that was very similar to what Lazarus did in the New Zealand Cup. The thing about this horse is that he probably has the opportunity to race on for longer. He's already been 2.5 seasons at the top, and there's no reason to think that's going to change anytime soon. He occasionally has that hitch in his gait, Greg, which I don't think it's an unsoundness thing. I think he's going so quick for such a long period of time. It's there, and that will always be there, I presume, but it has got significantly better over the last 2 seasons. I would love to see another 2 seasons out of him. Robert Dunn suggested to us on the radio on Sunday that he would love to see him go to Australia at the end of the year. Rumours, the Inter-Dominion Trotting Championship finals heading back to 250,000 in Victoria, where Kiwis seem to love going. So that would be awesome to see him over there in Australia. And then Robert said maybe Sweden. I wouldn't take him to Sweden. Sweden's a hard no for me, for Sunday Sun. Not my choice to make, but I spent a fair bit of time in Sweden, so I don't think he's set up for that type of racing. And if he is able to transition to Australia and carry that form around, Greg, he doesn't need to go anywhere else. There's enough money here for the open class trotters. He could win $500,000 a season for the next 2 seasons and become a $2 million trotter. Not saying that's going to happen. Weird things happen to horses, but I think for him to go to Australia, Greg, would be really cool. And for him to try and beat them at what they do better, the Great Southern Star, 2 lots of mile racing, or an Inter Dominion, because he's never been a horse to back up and race 3 times in a week before. He's never had to do this, Greg. So these are the new challenges. And if you want to go from being a millionaire and a champion to being one of the greats, then you have to sometimes meet those new challenges. And that's all ahead for Sunday Sun, and we all get to watch it together.
Yeah, they've both, Robert and John, been at lengths to tell us the contribution that Craig Edmonds has made with the horse. He clearly has a great affinity with him. His shoeing expertise is a big part to play in that as well. We've put together the 11 that have made the Millionaires list. And we've got the video there, of course, of Sunny down the bottom. But at the top is Lyle Creek, of course, did it everywhere in the world. We've got a couple there, Keystone Dell, Sundance Gift, Tornado Valley, all New Zealand bred who ended up in Australia and won the majority of their money there. But as I mentioned before, Sunday Sun yet to get to Australia, and he's already gone past that figure.
Yeah, and when you look at that list, you think of how many great memories those horses gave us, because horses can become millionaires in the pacing game by winning a lot of 2- and 3-year-old races, and they sort of get there and they sort of fall over the $1 million mark, and you don't have those relationships with them. Whereas if you like harness racing in any way, shape or form, the horses on that screenshot just there, they're horses you have a relationship with. You get to see a lot of take a moment and a lot of speeding spur and a lot of I can do's it. And I think, Greg, that's one of the strengths of the trotters and why people love them so much, is we get to know them so much better. The pacers can come and they can go, and it's a far bigger problem than the galloping, where the gallopers get retired when they're 3 if they're good colts, or sometimes 4. So I think those relationship building it's really important. And that's why we're going to have him come to Auckland, for example, and hopefully restrictions aren't so bad and we can get people to go out and see him. And in Victoria, they love their trotters. And if he goes to Victoria, Greg, and rolls up at Ballarat or Shepparton, people want to go see this horse. And that's a real rarity because we don't have many of those harness horses. It's going to get tougher in the next couple of weeks because Muscle Mountain will eventually get things right. The hopes are too good a trainers for him not to. And Bolt for Brilliance is on the way down this week. Tony Herlihy is going to go down to drive him for those 2 starts coming up. So he won't go unbeaten for the rest of the season, Greg. By the rest of the season, I mean the rest of this campaign. I'm still thinking like the old days. He won't go unbeaten. There's absolutely no doubt one of those good horses will get in front of him again and beat him. But that doesn't mean they're better than him. It just means that for every 5 days he has in the sun, they're going to have one of theirs.
Yep. Totally agree with that. And in fact, the horse that might be able to beat him is his stablemate. I spoke to Blair Orange after that, and if you watch Mataderos around the last bend, he was lucky to stay in his gate and Blair just had to hold on to him. He said, I reckon I might be able to beat him in one of these races. If I can get in front of him, much like you said before, I reckon he just about can beat him. Left-handed more than right, obviously, because right-handed's not Mataderos's go in life. So maybe around Addington Raceway. That race next week, Michael's a handicap, obviously. That won't be easy for him. And then the Fred Shaw is shaping up as a cracking contest.
Well, it's a lot harder to park his stablemate.
It is. It'll be really, but he's driving for a different set of connections. So
he is. It's just it doesn't happen a lot. I think that Bolt for Brilliance and Muscle Mountain are as fast as Sunday Sun. They've got 800-metre sectionals equivalent to what he's got. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And they all seem relatively sound. And they seem relatively with it. Bolt for Brilliance went to the workouts last weekend and Tony's really happy with him. So it's going to be a real highlight, Greg. And what we do get is sometimes we have some smallish fields, but they're very deep fields because Midnight Dash is a good horse. And I know that Mataderos is a horse you like a lot. So we have some depth in this crop to play with. And we mentioned him going to Australia. It's a funny one. If he goes across there and he gets beat, it's going to be like a reverse of that Rockin' Horse thing with the Newmarket for the gallopers where they're going to say, oh, they weren't that good after all type thing. But I think deep down inside, the Australians know that the best version of Sunday Sun could cause some real havoc around Melton come December.
While we're focusing in on the trotters, let's have a look at this mile race at Addington Raceway on Friday night, where we get to see this horse back in a different set of colours. This is Oscar Bonavina, winning at the trials against the Pacers. That's Lumen Cayley getting through on the inside. You just can't quite see the colours of the All-Star team there, but have a look at Oscar. Gee, he was beautiful in his gait here, Michael. Spoke to Regan Todd, said couldn't be happier with him. Robbie Close gets the opportunity to drive the star trotter on Friday night. The problem for Robbie is, one, Greg and Nina Hope have turned up with both Midnight Dash and, of course, Muscle Mountain, because he effectively didn't have a race last week. And Greg telling me earlier today that he's more than happy for him to go around. Ben Hope suspended, likely to be Ricky May, not confirmed, but likely. Matthew Williamson to take the drive, therefore, on Midnight Dash. So the mile start's not everyone's cup of tea. I understand why Addington have done it. It's to allow these horses, and horses like the Dominator, who will get its chance in front, Michael, because he runs the gate very, very quickly, and they are racing for $20,000 in this Neville Yard Stud Trotters Free for All. So intriguing go. Markets come up $1.55 for Muscle Mountain, and what have we got? $4.20 for Oscar Bonavina.
I think Muscle Mountain will win. This is the race last year. Oscar Bonavina got beat. I think
Chinese Whisper
beat him in
correct.
This race.
Yep.
But I just don't think we should race miles at Addington. It's not my track. It's not my club. I don't get to make those decisions. I just don't see the point anymore. I think there's also plenty of bad start points for other racetracks in the country too. But I think Addington should never race another mile race ever, because I think they're dumb. And this will be a good race. I'll watch it. I'll enjoy it. But I just don't see the point, because the mile time is relevant. If you want a good mile time, go to Ashburton and get one, and plenty have. Muscle Mountain's already got his. I just don't see the point in the whole thing. I don't think.
So would you have run it over 1980? You would have just said, "Oh, it's a sprint distance. Let's just run it over there."
I don't see any point. It's just to people who have lived in harness racing their whole lives, we think the mile times are relevant, or we think it's got some hoopla to it, and they might break the national or the track record or whatever. But no one else cares. Yep. Punters hate the thing they hate the most is inconsistency, things they can't work out. I'll watch it, I'll enjoy it, I know that, but there's still no point in doing it. So just don't do it again. But I know they will. They're not going to listen to me, but there's no point. And the funny thing about it was, if I said to somebody that we were going to race a 1,500 metre race at Alexandra Park and start on the bend, they would say that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Don't get me wrong, they used to do Alexandra Park. They had a 2,500 metre standing start race once, and it was just the dumbest thing ever. So we don't need to do that.
They have one of those at Addington as well at the Christmas.
But that's also
once.
Exactly, and the novelty's okay.
Yep.
The novelty's great for Westboard, and if you want to chuck one on at Methven or something, because people watching grass track racing are enjoying the experience and having a beer and enjoying their families, and it doesn't really matter. But when we're on Friday nights now, Friday nights are the big dance, and we're losing. We're not getting the pretty girls at the big dance anymore. We're losing out to everybody. Randwick's getting us, Hong Kong's getting us. Ellersde's going to get a bunch more coverage every Saturday than the harnesses. We've got to make Friday night elite, Greg. It's got to be super elite, and starting races on a bend is not elite. It's just us pretending that mile times matter. They matter, and that's why Ashburton's there, and that's why Wyndham's there. We just don't need to do stuff like this anymore. I can't believe we're doing it this weekend.
All right, let's move from that, Michael, and head to the big dance on Friday night, Alexandra Park. This was a Cooter in the green colours. The 106th running of the 2022 Woodland Stud Northern Derby will be run, but here is the prelude. Here is the hot favourite for this year's Derby getting over the top, and post-race, Michael Guerin caught up with not only Mark Purdon, but also the runner-up driver in Brent Mangos.
And Akuta gets the win, second over Beach Ball, third over Franco Indy.
Well, Mark Akuta was very much like self-assured, younger version out there tonight. He was very explosive coming from last.
Yes, yeah, he's another with a great turn of speed, Mick, and only 6-horse field, so he wasn't far off the leaders, and he just finished over the top of them.
Derby is around the corner. It's only going to be a small field. Would he be as good in front, Mark? Because it's not something we've seen a lot of him doing. And to be honest, he's going to be that short. That's what the punters, that's where they love him to be. So what do you make of his options for next Friday?
Yeah, well, that'll come down to the draw a bit, Mick, and where the main ones are in the draw. But look, he's versatile. I don't think it would worry him bowling around in front.
At the moment, he looks to have a little bit, a length or two, maybe a length on Franco Indy and the other 3-year-olds.
Yes, yeah, that'd be a fair comment, Mick. But I think Franco Indy's just sort of getting ready to have a bit of a break, but he's done a great job.
He's a very brave horse, Mango Beach Ball.
Very good. You know, the track conditions are cutting up a bit now, and look, he stuck to his task good. John thought he'd probably, would benefit from the run tonight. So, look, he's a lot more tractable. John just changed a little bit of gear on him, and look, he wasn't over racing at all, which he has done in the past. So, it was a good run.
It was a good run from Beach Ball, and Michael, he's come up with barrier 1, Akuta barrier 3. Now, pre-barrier draw, Akuta was $1.25. He's come up with, I think it's an ideal marble. I'll be interested to hear what you think about where he might settle. He's $1.45, which for multiplayers I'm sure they'll take. Conversely, Beach Ball was $6.25. He's come up with barrier 1, he goes out to $7.50.
Yeah, often you see when the final fields come up, Greg, that they'll loosen the percentage up in the market because the markets are so tight. They often run to 150, 160% pre-final field. Then they tighten the percentage, which pushes the dividends out a touch. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Akuta will start shorter. The question everybody's going to be posing in their mind is, does Beach Ball lead and stay there, which is probably his best chance of winning the race? And if they do that, Greg, does everybody else go to single file? Because that would put Akuta 3 back. Or there's the other option that Mark tries to blast the gate, then rehand the Beach Ball. That's where everybody's going to see the mix being, Gregory, and that's going to put the Franco Max and the Franco Indies out wider looking for luck. I think they'll be in single file, Gregory, after about 400, 500 metres, and then they might stay that way for a lap. So they're tricky types of races, but he did come from last to win last week, Greg. I think the $1.45 won't last. I think it'll be $1.25 by the time we get to the post and get to the start time.
If he has to sit outside Beach Ball, will he beat him?
I can't imagine he has to sit outside him for long. I think once they settle, they'll just all sit where they sit for a lap, and they won't need to go anywhere because no one else is going to want to sit parked either. So could he sit parked outside him for a lap? Probably. But as we saw self-assured recently over South Coast Arden, Greg, it's not an easy thing to do. Admittedly, Beach Ball's not South Coast Arden. But it's added intrigue to the race. If Akuta was barrier 1, it would look a yawn fest in saying that the Harness Millions wasn't either. So it's been an unusual crop, but at the moment he seems to have the wood on them. $1.45. If you were suggesting a multi to the boys at the golf club, would you suggest that was value?
Yeah, I would. Yep, I absolutely would, and I'm with you. I think he'll definitely start shorter than that in the 106th running of the Woodlands Northern Derby. That one's set to go at 20 minutes past 9 o'clock, so there's a pretty good night of harness racing, both Addington and Auckland, more of which we're going to study up now and go back and have a look at the Pascoes, the Jewelers. This was the Oaks Prelude, the winner getting to the outside, Peter Ferguson driving for Robert and Jenna Dunn. I thought the runner-up was absolutely excellent here, Lady of the Light. Decent chance this week too. And of course, just dying a little bit on its run there, Dance Till Dawn actually comes up with the inside second row draw, and a slightly luckless Cover Girl there dashing into third. But in terms of the prelude, Michael, there was one horse missing. She's come up favourite at $2.30. Her name is True Fantasy, and she also missed a workout on Saturday.
Yes, she did. So she's had the same issue, which is ironic considering the pictures we're looking at, because it hosed down at Alexandra Park on Friday night. But the issue's been dust for both her and Spankham. We'll get to Spankham later on. The dust has been getting in their nostrils, down into their lungs and annoying them and giving them respiratory issues. Now, the dust has clearly gone at Auckland because Greg Easter was flooding. So that's no longer an issue. I just don't like, if she had come off a really big win last start and missed a lead-up race, I'll be like, okay, cool, she'll probably win. And maybe she will. But I don't like her coming off being beaten last start, the confidence you lose out of that. Maybe the rivals thinking she's vulnerable because she's lost some of that respect, Greg. All of that playing into the same space. That's why the bookies have a 2.3. Again, as I said, I say this often on the show, it's midweek. By the time you get to Friday, I would have spoken to Mark Purd and some of the other people previewing for Harness Racing New Zealand or the New Zealand Herald. We'll speak to these people and we will try and give you this information as much as we can. But you can't be taking the 2.3 until there, Greg. And even then, even if he said she's working sensational, because I spoke to Mark on Friday night, he said she's working really well. But he also said the same thing before the last race. I don't want to back horses, Gregory, to win Group 1s when there's any doubt over them at all. So we'll dig down this week, try and find out for people watching on the other platforms, for example, on HRNZ or reading things online. Try and find out what we can for you. Because
especially,
it's
Michael,
crucial.
over the 2700. That is a concern.
And especially when she got a butt kicked last time.
Yeah.
If she wins there, you go, well, they're not good enough to beat her, but they are good enough to beat her because we saw that. So
So does Mr. Kaplan come out, have a crack for the lead? Does Remember Me with Blair Orange back on?
Doesn't everybody at the moment?
I think so. Yep.
I think if harness racing's actually bounced back remarkably. 2 years ago, went through a place in harness racing where the leaders were getting very easy times and winning, and people were just moaning. We've seen some vicious racing. We've seen people parking all sorts of horses and attacking all sorts of horses. No better example than the Harness Millions. It's good. It's good fun to watch. Can be hell for the punters, but that's why you're getting 2.3 for True Fantasy. And you don't have to lead to win all the time, Greg. You can sit on the marker picks. So I think it's a really intriguing Oaks. Remember Me is a really good horse. We know that. And nothing went right for Carter last week on her. It was just one of those ugly races. But she could win the Oaks this week. Obviously, First Rose can win the Oaks. Well done to Peter Ferguson. He drove 4 last week on a Friday night. That's no small deal at Alexandra Park. I think there's a few players in this group. I think Lady of the Light, as you said, was enormous, and that stable's already won a Great Northern Oaks. So I think it's a really intriguing race. And even if I dig down really deep on Mark and get his opinions and try and put them out there for people, he thought she would win last time, Greg. And she wasn't just beaten, she was beaten up.
Yep, she definitely was. She's $2.30, $4.80 for Remember Me. I think you could have got as long as $12 post last week's run. Mr. Kaplan's $15. Cover Girl, who's done nothing wrong. Not so convinced the 2700 will be perfect for her. $7 chance in First Rose, the same. So that is the 55th running of the Pascoes, the Jewelers, Northern Oaks. We'll have a look at the other 2 group races. Of course, the Cardigan Bay at Group 1 level with Brecon Farms, and of course the Delightful Lady as well a little bit later on in the program. But we might have a focus now on these horses going towards the race. Let's have a look at the finishing burst here of Self Assured, charging home, 55.6, 27.4 off the front, very much like a Cooter. He got to the outside, BD Joe in front, a very brave South Coast Arden, and as they hit the line, it was the favourite for the race getting the business done, and Mark Purdon and Brent Mangos had a bit to say post-race.
Self-Assured from the tail end of the field with a sharp sprint to pick up the Founders Cup.
Well, Mark, Self Assured was quite explosive tonight.
Yeah, he's got that great turn of speed, Mick, and when South Coast Arden didn't make the front, it looked like it was going to give them a good run for their money there.
Still not an easy way to win 1,700 metre races. What were you thinking going down the back straight?
Well, as I say, I thought the horse to beat the South Coast Arden, and just doing that extra bit of work probably just took its toll a little bit. He still went good, but my horse has got that brilliant speed.
The race is on April the 14th. How do you get there racing-wise?
He'll probably have one more race in a fortnight, and then that'll be a fortnight to the race.
For where he needs to be for the race, is this preparation going about as perfectly as it could? Because it looks that way.
Yeah, it is. Mick, his form line's great. Even when he's been beat, he's still gone great. So, no, he's on the right track.
Well, Mango, you'd have to be happy with South Coast Arden because not a lot went right.
Yeah, not really, Mickey. He sort of got a little bit keen the first sort of 100 yards, so I just let him roll out, and then the front wasn't there, but hey, that's fine. So, look, it was a good run. He just hung a little bit on the last bend, which sometimes he can do that if he's off the marker line, but look, he stuck to his task really good in the finish, I thought.
What's the plans between now and the one everybody's talking about, the race?
At this stage, I've got 2 options, Mickey. He might line up on the first, otherwise he'll go to Cambridge without touching base with David Branches yet. He may have a workout between races the week before, the night of Cambridge meeting. So I'll just weigh it up, see how he comes through these races and go from there.
Well, I can confirm, Mango, that I spoke to David Branch, and it is their intention, Michael, to have a trial at the meeting the week before. I think it's a Thursday night leading in, so a full week out from the big one, the race. But, gee, that was a contest. Love what Self Assured did. Love what South Coast Arden did. He was going to run 5th about the 150 metre mark, and he just kept on trying. These 2 horses are having some great battles at the moment.
Yeah, it's a great rivalry, and usually when South Coast Arden gets in front of Self Assured, he can beat him, but on that occasion, Sitting Park, clearly the BD Joe Ariel was up, so they had no interest in letting him lead, and that's good to see too. Again, more competitive racing. He's faster than these horses, Greg, Self Assured, but his chances of winning the race have actually diminished in the last 2 weeks. No doubts about that. his chances of drawing the front line have diminished. So there'll be some fear among some people that he'll draw the front line. He's never shown a lot of gate speed, but he'll get to the front and he'll win, and people will say, what was the point of that? It's an all-stars horse and blah, blah, blah. There will always be cynics in harness racing. Let's not forget, plenty of people in high positions thought this race wasn't going to get off the ground. Maybe they shouldn't watch on April the 14th. But the chances of him getting the lead are diminished for two reasons. First of all, there's two mares, so that's two of the spots gone. And now you have two absolute flying machines from Australia, which will absolutely certainly beat Self Assured off the gate, no matter where he draws, and Mark Dan and Ultra Orlando. So all of a sudden you're saying these horses have the cards. Now, I'm not saying Self Assured can't lead, and he absolutely can win. But we've all watched enough harness racing at Cambridge to know that winning from parked is incredibly difficult, and the 1-1's okay, but 3 back's really difficult. So it's an intriguing race now, Greg. In many ways, we would have loved to see Spirit of St. Louis or King of Swing. That would have added some glamour to the race, King of Swing, some market percentage with Spirit of St. Louis. But we've actually ended up with almost an inch-perfect version of this race. We've got the mares. They add some intrigue. We've got the Australians, who always add intrigue. We've got the gate speed Australians, which we've never been able to beat them at. And we've got some very good in-form horses, to the point that a horse like Krug Gregory is $21.
Yeah, remarkable.
So I'm not sure if it's good management. David Branch has done a super job pulling all this together, and well done to all the people who have taken slots. Some of them have they've shown a lot of courage in doing so, and support for the industry, which is great. But also they've been smart. I didn't see Spellbound coming, and I didn't see Ultra Orlando coming, Greg. Now, he got his spot when One Change went so poorly last week. People thought he'd be in the slot, and Ultra Orlando's a better horse than One Change. So I think it's great. I think it's a really cool race, and the coolest thing about it, Greg, is I don't have no idea who's going to win. You put Self Assured on the second line, you couldn't take less than $4. Yep. You couldn't. Put him on the second line, drawn behind one of the mares, who you know ain't going to lead. It's fun, Greg. It's a fun race. It's an intriguing race. We've got lots of cool elements. We're looking forward to having Jack Callaghan here. Of course, now the Australians can come in the 2 days leading up to the race, or the day before and the day of. So Gene Feast is going to be coming across. I'm sure Danny Zavazatos, who owns Mark Dan, will come across. Our good friend Brittany Graham from Sky's coming across. Sky's already talking about it. Tomorrow on the gig, they're going to talk about it, and then they're going to have, Greg, a 10-minute separate segment on the race. They don't do that. They don't do that for New Zealand galloping races.
No,
I know. There's no chance it happens. So this is going to be a pretty big deal, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think everybody's got fingers crossed that we can get a bigger crowd there, and that's hard for David and his team because they need to work out some of the stuff. They've got a really cool promotion coming up, Greg, on the Australians going onto the track first.
Yep.
The visitors, not the Kiwis. They can go on later. Just the Australians, their team.
Yep.
That's how you play this stuff. That's how you make it work. That's how you turn harness racing and make it a bit more sexy and a bit more fun. And there's still some more intrigue to come. There was some squabbling going on this week about a driver, and that's fair. People can squabble because they paid their money to squabble. And we don't know if Spankum's going to make it there. Now, Spankum might make it, Greg, but if he goes poorly on April the 1st, do you park Spankum? And do the Breckons bring in Better Twist? They said no, but they could. And then who does Nat drive? So, Greg, these are interesting, fun, cool questions, and I'm going to enjoy being part of them. And I hope the people at home do too, because we're going to try and do the best to answer some of them.
Let's have a look at Better Twist winning last week. I did put it to Natalie Rasmussen post-race whether she might be in play now. We got the answer pretty quickly the next day or 2 days later with Ken Brecken on SENZ Radio. But let's hear what Natalie had to say about this horse, who's now back in winning form and close to $600,000 in the bank.
They won't get her. Better Twist too clear, and she'll win it. Beat Home Sugar Me. Better Twist Sugar Me.
She's remembered how to race.
Oh, she was great, Greg. I think she was just a bit tired and flat when she got back from Melbourne. She didn't want to pick up the bit and wouldn't really work with us. But tonight, a few gear changes and that, and I sort of could just, keep her up hard on the bit and make her feel good. And she just bolted and she felt great.
Look, when she does get to the lead and get in on the markers, there's not many run past her.
No, that's right. No, she's very good like that. And the way she got off the gate tonight was so promising as well. So, just I think, it could be a possibility to talk to Ken and Karen now what they want to do going forward, but I think she's back.
Yeah. And does that therefore make her back in the mix for the race?
Well, look, it probably would. We'll have a discussion, obviously, Kenny, Karen and Mark, and they'll sort it out. Yeah, but I think the way she went tonight, you'd have to look at it. She'd have to be some form of a chance of going in there.
Yep, we know the answer to that now, so she is not going unless something goes wrong with Spankham. So the horse we know has arrived is Mac Dan, and Michael Guerin got a chance to chat to Mark Purdon about what sort of shape he's turned up in.
Well, Mark, Mac Dan has turned up at the stable. What do you make of him?
We've just toppled him a couple of times quietly, Mick, but he's a lovely horse to work with. No issues with him. I spoke to Clayton Tonkin at length about him, and he said he's a pretty easy horse to train, and he just does what he has to.
When are we going to see him on New Zealand soil having a race?
It'd possibly be here in a fortnight, Mick. He hasn't done any work right-handed, so we might have just a couple of issues sort of negotiating that, but that's our plan at this stage.
Have you buzzed him up at all? Because he looks fast, he looks like he can run fast, and I'm sure he'd be quite fun to drive.
Yes, no, we haven't really buzzed him up, but we know he's got the speed, so just a matter of keeping him fit.
Yeah, so Alexandra Park, there's a 1,700 metre free-for-all there on the first. And at Addington, of course, Michael, they've got a couple of races, including the Superstars, where Pembroke Playboy is going through. And I did mention that trial the week before for horses that want to go around Cambridge leading into the race. The market, Michael, looks like this. $2.30 self-assured, $5.50 for Mac Dan. That's come down $4 since we last spoke last week. South Coast Arden the same, $6.50 for Spankham. Then you get out to Hot and Treacherous, Pembroke Playboy at around $15. The Orlando, Krug, Spellbound, they're starting Stylish Memphis, the widest of those, around $26. So that's where the market sits. Ultra Orlando, of course, goes to a free-for-all this week, Michael.
Remarkable story. Incredible story. Ultra Orlando won the Sales Series Pace 8 years ago. And he ran second in the Sire Stakes final. Two of the worst Sales Series Sire Stakes two-year-olds you've ever seen, Greg. Terrible races. But he's gone on. He's been a great three-year-old. Actually finished third in the Sire Stakes final at Addington on Cup Day behind Have Faith in Me, who went on to win a Miracle Mile the next year. And then he just raced in everything. And then he got sore, and then he went from Mark Purdon's to obviously to the Duns, who did a super job with him. When they sent him to Menangle, I was like, why are you sending this horse to Menangle? Like, how's he going to cop hard racing there if he wasn't sound over here? Well, he's copped it, Greg. He loves it. I spoke to Luke McCarthy about him this week, and he said we just use the water walker and we swim him, and he has time on the treadmill, and he just loves it. He said Belinda and Luke's two daughters absolutely love Ultra Orlando. Stable favourite horse in the barn. Just love him. So they're relishing this whole opportunity. They're looking forward to the whole thing. Luke said he'd love to come over. He said, but Jack Callahan's been doing the job on the horse. Jack will come. For those who don't know Jack, outstanding young horseman, doing some really good things in Australia. So he's excited to come across, Greg. It's just a really cool, feel-good story. Will he win the race? I have absolutely no idea. But I know if he draws inside those good horses, Greg, he'll be the key to the race.
Yep.
And that's going to be a lot of fun. And we could have easily ended up with a race with no Australians, and we could have ended up in a race where we had horses who we knew couldn't win were in there. But if we've ended up in a race where the market outside, as you were reading out before, are Stylish Memphis and Spellbound, who is great in the ladyship, and Krug, and they're the outsiders of the race, Greg, then we've ended up with a pretty darn good race.
Yeah, no question about that at all. So with Garage, just a quick chat about Firefox, first up in Australia, 149.6, panelled them. And Josh Dickey got a Group 1 winner with He's a Hammer for David Aiken there in Victoria. So a couple of big Kiwi successes, if you like, there. As we go to our break here, I want to go back and have a look at Brent White achieving win number 200 as a trainer. Samantha's Moon was the winner on this occasion as part of a big day there at Wyndham.
But it's Samantha's Moon in front. Samantha's Moon won it.
Welcome back into your box seat. Yes, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. There was a tragic boat accident up the top of New Zealand which involved some racing identities, one of which was Richard Bright, who owned, with his wife Brenda, the Group 1 Turf Bar in Cambridge. This is one of his winners, of course, trained by the Dickies. Great mate of John Dickies, actually ran the clubhouse with him for about 4 years. And Tricky Rick, an excellent racehorse. Michael was third in the Derby, ran second to Tickle Me Pink in the Harness Jewels on that very wet day. A likeable fella, no question about that, Richard Bright. That's him just standing in behind there. A big old farewell it's going to be for any type of publican because he has so many friends, but Richard had a lot of friends.
Yeah, big harness racing man, larger than life. Enjoyed his racing, his fishing, his hunting and his beers and talking about racing and fishing and hunting with the boys. And I had a fair bit to do with him when he was running the clubhouse, and would always come out and look after the presenters at trackside and shout you a burger and say, hey, it's great to have you guys here. Sad loss for his family, clearly, and obviously for the racing industry. He owned a lot of good horses and very supportive of John and Josh Dickey, so they'll be feeling it with thinking of all the people involved. And obviously, the people in the galloping community lost Greg too. We're not going to name all those because there are some people who are still who were believed to be on the boat who are missing. So to all of those people, it'll be hurting like hell, Greg. So yeah, terrible thing, and sad that these people have had to go through that with their families, most importantly.
Yeah, and of course, out of that great mare in Great Getaway, who won 10 races, I think All-American is out of that family too, one for Richie and, of course, for John Dickey as well. So, our condolences there. Also to the family of Alec Gorrell, who raced a whole lot of really nice horses, the Meander horses. Got the opportunity to have a chat to him on a few occasions, and to his family, we wish you our condolences as well, or send our condolences to you. I think he trained well over 60 winners, did Alec. He was a panel beater and a strong supporter of Alexandra Park through sponsorship as well. Silver Stream he won about 10 or 11 races with, along with Meander and Eden, who I think won something similar. All right, speaking of Alexandra Park, back to the focus there. We want to have a look at the Brecken's Young Guns and see Sevi getting back into form and in front. He won nicely. Sooner the better getting to his inside. And Beckham on debut here, Michael, I thought was excellent.
He was. Once this horse led, you expected him to win. They probably got a bit closer than I thought they would, but I think he's half weighted for them there, to be honest, Sevi. Spoke to Tony Hurley about him. He said, look, he's actually improved every run. He was a bit colty when they first took him to the races, but he's getting better and more sensible, and gate speed with a bit of strength. He's a good advertisement for his sire, Vincent. Second horse good, third horse even better. Massive market mover after last week's show was Beckham. He was favourite for this final this Friday, and then he bounced out the third favourite, and now he's back into second favourite because the final field fixed odds are out. Merlin wasn't in that race, and he is the favourite, Greg, and he deserves to be because he's awfully fast.
Yeah, he
so
is.
Merlin favourite over Beckham and Sevi, and the draws would suggest Beckham should be a little bit closer this time.
Yep, $2.30 Merlin, $3 if you want to back Beckham, and then $3.30 for Sevi. And one of the key Group 1s for the 2-year-olds, it is the Brecken Farms Cardigan Bay Stakes. The Group 2 Delightful Ladies Young Gun Series, two of the heats have been won by this horse, Peter Ferguson. You talked about him getting the business done 4 occasions last Friday. Here was one of those. At the top of the straight, you probably didn't think so, Michael. Karlua Flyby, one of a string of course, the Telford team. Took a while to wind up, but they did sprint home very quickly, 27-2. Getting into second, Secret Delight, who comes up with barrier 1 this week.
Yeah, fast family. It's always been a fast family, and she's obviously inherited that speed, but I think she's able to use it earlier than most of the horses in this family have been able to use it. So clearly a very advanced juvenile. I'm not picking she'll get straight to the marker pigs quite as easily as she did from barrier 1 last week, where she fell to the marker pig. So interesting race, Greg. I really like her. I think she's a really cool filly, but I'm just not sure this is a cut and dried final. It doesn't feel that way to me. I'm not sure why it doesn't, but it doesn't. And I spoke again to a couple of the trainers around some of these horses, Greg. Really interesting time for them now, because they're going to race and we're going to think, oh, this is cool, Group 1s or Group 2s, it's a lot of fun, and then they just won't race again for 2 months because the season divides into two halves where the back end is going to be significantly busier. And we're seeing that with the Bathurst Gold Crown in Australia at the moment. People like Luke McCarthy don't have any horses in the 2-year-old version because it's so early in the season. So I think a lot of trainers, Greg, are getting their heads around what's going on. Good target races, works really well, but I wouldn't be surprised if the same bunch of horses who are winning the group races now, I'm not saying they're going to be usurped, but I wouldn't be surprised if a whole new bunch of horses emerge post-winter and we have almost 2 divisions, which could be quite fun.
Yeah, it could be. It gives those owners an opportunity if they're a late developer. I like the Notorious RBG though. Drawn to the inside of the favourite. Current prices, $2.30 Kalua Flyby, $3.30 for the Notorious RBG, and Art Dior at $4.20. Secret Delight I thought was over as $12 because she was certainly charging home and has the advantage of Barrier 1. But congratulations to the Woodlands partnership, and Kalua Flyby certainly flying their flag at the moment. Good program there. Alexandra Park on Friday night, albeit light on numbers. There's some quality clashes there, as there are at Addington Raceway. A couple of races I wanted to have a look at for you. Here's an unusual one. Majestic Chick, that's her widest out there, having a gallop in the hands of Corbin Newman, and she lost a lot of ground. You're thinking, why are you showing me that? Well, I'm showing you that for this reason. They turn for home. Have a look at the ground that Majestic Chick made up. Going through on the inside, clicks a marker there, gets held up, ducks back to the inside and finishes it off beautifully. I thought this horse would be extremely hard to beat this week. Is a short course specialist, has won 5 times over the 1980 metres, and the way she found the line, spoke to Coaster Hare and suggested to him that this might be her target race after missing out last time, and yeah, he agreed. So happy to think that she'll be pretty hard to beat. The other video that I wanted to show you was a horse called Waterview. Pulling out of the 1-1 here, Michael. This is for the fillies, most of them having their first start on Friday night. Love the way she found the line. She's got a bit of breeding down by the seaside at a Rivet Towel. In those colours, and yeah, I really thought that she hit the line beautifully, so looking forward to her debut. She's come up with Barrier 3 in the 2-year-old fillies event at Addington, race number 6 on Friday night. So an 11 race program there at Addington to coincide with Alexandra Parks. Yeah, are you a fan of both harness clubs racing on the same night, Michael? Because it's thick and fast and furious when they're both going head to head.
It's a long conversation, Greg. It's a long conversation, but it's a conversation that needs to be had at a really high level of harness racing strategically very quickly, because there's a push to put Alexandra Park, because the fields aren't as big and therefore the turnover isn't as big, back to Thursdays for about half its meetings next year. And that's not a good idea. That's just not a good idea, because we're in danger of losing the public of our biggest city. Now, a lot of people who don't live in Auckland couldn't give a stuff. They hate Auckland. They couldn't care less. But that's where the machine is. That's where all the gambling in this country is done. An enormous percentage of the gambling in this country is done in Auckland.
What sort of percentage are we talking here, Michael?
It depends what code you're talking about. It depends if you're talking fixed odds. Also depends about whether the meetings are there or not there.
Yep.
But when you look at the numbers up front, they're huge, because Auckland's a huge place and there's a lot of money there. And more importantly than that, we've only got 2 harness racing tracks that matter to people who watch the gallops. They watch Alexandra Park and they watch Ellerslie and Addington. That's all they watch.
Yep.
Now, Cambridge is fun. They'll enjoy the race. It'll be great. But the rest of the tracks might as well be the same track. They don't care. They couldn't tell the difference between Motukarara and Methven. You've got to have strong racing in Auckland. And we're looking at it the wrong way. If we're saying, oh, well, they're not going very well with the turnovers, there's not enough horses, let's put it to Thursday, that's the wrong idea. Because if we stop people going to the races in Auckland because they don't want to go to the Bear on Thursday and a Chicken Palmer, and stop Alexandra Park being somewhere people go, Greg, we're stuffed.
Well, with Wellington, we know what happened with Hutt Park, didn't we? It just harness racing.
There's no harness racing. There's no harness racing track in Hamilton,
yep,
or Wellington, or Dunedin.
Mm.
And if you stop people going to Alexandra Park as opposed to go enjoy themselves, because the facilities are very good.
Yep.
And that's a post-COVID conversation. But people don't want to go out for a beer on Thursday night as much as they want to go for a beer on Friday night.
Yep.
So you support it. And if you say we need to have harness racing Thursday night, then you put on other race meetings, whether they're Manawatu or Cambridge, because once you're outside the 2 big cities, no one cares. It's all the same stuff to them. They don't care. But if we go down a path of putting Alexandra Park as an inferior product, because these numbers aren't impossible to replace, they're not impossible to replace. And people say, oh, it's a big stuff. Well, Queensland harness racing was stuffed 3 years ago, but they fixed it. It's better now.
Yep. It can be fixed.
If you abandon your biggest city in any code and start giving it an inferior time slot, you're out of your mind. And people will say, oh, but Addington makes more money. Well, great. Melton and Menangle race on the same night.
Yeah.
And we have to race on the same night, because if you start making Auckland this thing, and most of the people who run harness racing in this country don't live in Auckland. And I'm not saying it because I live in Auckland. I'm saying it because I've spent hundreds of hours of my life travelling on planes to go to cities where they've done this. And I've seen what's happened.
Yep, it's a mistake.
And we can't do this. And if we do it, you will never walk it back. The next 2 years is incredibly important for Alexandra Park. It's incredibly important for the harness racing industry. And people may hate Auckland. They may hate Aucklanders. They may hate me. I don't care. It's still the wrong thing to do, because it's the big...
Do you want to make a list, that last one?
Honestly, Greg, it's the big economic machine.
Yep.
And people have to just take their emotions out of us. So many people are angry about Auckland versus Addington. And
it shouldn't be like that. No way.
It's just money.
Yeah.
The public don't care, Greg. If you told people that Riccarton wasn't going any good, so it gets no more Saturdays compared with Ellerslie, how would that conversation go?
Yeah. Good point. Very good point, Michael. It is a conversation for another day, and a longer one, and I really would like to do that away from some of our feature racing. Before we go to our next break, though, let's head south. It was the Matara Licensing Trust Cup run down there, won by Tealor Toll, who's just flying at the moment, for Carl Hanna and Matthew Williamson. A really positive drive, and another cup is on the mantelpiece.
Tealor Toll, what a tough win. That's been brave, that's been tenacious, and he scored and won it by 2 lengths on Idealism.
In the home straight, in your box seat, yes, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Where did the money go, and who won and who lost? Akuta, $5,000 there at $1.30. Sevi, might have been the same punter, having a crack there at $1.60. They both got the business done. Van Shard shortened actually from about $4.80 into $2.70 at close. Led and won easily at Addington. Sunday Sun, interesting bet there at $1.55, and Darling Me won at Wyndham and won very well coming from last. Blame It on the Night was one of the selections of our team here on the box seat. Came unstuck. One Change clearly didn't get the lead and is now not going to the race. Sam Hara, who I was keen on, had to sit parked and couldn't beat He's a Sport. So that money went west, and Legenda Franco on Sunday along with Escargo at Motukarara. The money was lost there. Big thank you to the TAB for an update on the hits and misses. Map this week. Let's have a look at where the harness racing is going to be at. Wednesday, of course, if you're watching this on Wednesday, Addington have got an afternoon meeting, as they have on the 13th of April. 8-race card there. Then we've got Cambridge on Thursday night, the Waikato Bay of Plenty Harness Racing Club there, 5:31 the start. Alexandra Park, they haven't got the 9 races, they have the 8, and they go at 6:28 for the first of theirs, whereas Addington, and of course all of those features at Group 1 level, Northern Derby, the Northern Oaks and the Cardigan Bay Stakes, all at the Group 1 level for some terrific money. Addington have got 11 races, and they get underway at 4:46, a slight early start there. This map's obviously done before the fields come out, and it is Waimate Cup Day there on Sunday with the likes of the Falcon, Cora Valley Star, Dashing Major, and got you covered going around there. And the Manawatu have 2 days next week, including the $15,000 Hawera Cup. So those fields won't be too far away from being out. Michael, we've got to redeem ourselves. We didn't get the business done last week. Joe's Rock actually won for Jason Broad, but we come unstuck with our 2. So where are you going this week?
Yeah, mine was poor. Blame It on the Night. but I think we can redeem ourselves with Merlin this week. I'm happy to take over $2 for him. I think he's 2.3. Very fast horse. And I think he'll get them for speed in the Young Guns final. Yeah, he's my bet of the week, but could have just as easily, Greg, been in a whole bunch of others. I think it's an easy-ish night to bet there because a lot of very good horses look to be in the right sort of form. Horses like Akuta and several others. So, yeah, Merlin's to go. What's yours?
All right, Glory's Delight didn't do it for me last week from an awkward draw, but you've seen that video of Majestic Chick. I reckon she's right in this race. Yep, she has to take on some pretty smart ones like Bit of Muscle, but yeah, I like Majestic Chick. I love her over the short course, and I think you'll get an each-way price about her. So happy to be with her. What's the one horse you're looking forward to seeing the most on Friday night, Michael? What's
Akuta.
The one that... Yeah.
Akuta. I think he's a really good horse. He could have ended up in the race. He hasn't, but they found a great replacement, Cullen Breeding, with Mark Dan. I'm looking forward to the week after, Greg. I'm looking forward to seeing Mark Dan turn up and be a different horse. And I think these unknowns are so good and extend it out for 6 months. Once we start being able to go back to Australia and we find out how good Self Assured is. Once Self Assured gets over there for an Inter Dominion or a Hunter Cup, Greg, and Sunday Sun gets there, it's round the corner now. It's going to happen. And it's been a bloody long wait for us all. It's been a couple of years since we've been going, Greg, and from lockdowns to other restrictions, but we're getting there. So the race is almost the relaunch for me, Greg. It's the first Australasian horse race in a long time for harness racing, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's certainly getting some great build-up and looking forward to continuing that here on your box seat. That's been it for another week. Michael and I will see you in 7 days' time.